Hi everyone. So today we're going to look at the practice test number 1 from the SAT, and this is the no calculator part. And what I'm going to do is make sure to go through each question with you, and not so much of a timed test, but making sure you understand the concepts and then showing you if there's any other simple way to do these questions so that way you can make sure you have enough time to answer every single question. Okay, so let's look at question number 1. So you know what k is equal to. K is 3. So what we can do is substitute in the 3 in for k. And then what you do is to solve for x. We're going to cross out and cancel out that 3. So you get x minus 1 is equal to 9. Add 1 on both sides, and x is going to equal 10. Okay. Looking at the next question, we're going to add. So we will add the real parts together. So the 7 and the -8, which is -1. And then you're going to add the imaginary parts together, which is going to be a 12i. Can't combine these, so your answer is going to be letter A. Okay, question number 3, we have a word problem. So we have Armand that sends M text messages each hour for 5 hours. So 5 hours times the number of text messages he sends. Then you have Tyrone that sends P messages every 4 hours. Every 4 hours times P number of messages. Now your question is asking you which of the following represents the total number of messages. So whenever we think about total, we're going to add together. So my expression is going to be 5M plus 4P, which is answer C. Okay, here we have a little bit of a longer word problem, but that's okay. Here we go. Let's pick apart this question together. So you do have an equation that's given to you, and we want to find out what exactly each of those variables mean to help us answer the question. So P is going to equal the number of phones that are left, and D is going to be the number of days that she has worked. We want to find out what does the value of 108 mean. So when you look at this question, your hint is actually going to be that minus sign. So minus sign means something that we're taking away from 108. So if we're taking away from 108 in the beginning, we're taking away 23D, then what is left over is P, which is the number of phones that remain. So what will happen is that the 108 is actually going to be something that we start with. So we start. So you look at your answer choices, and the only one that makes relatively much sense is actually answer choice letter B. Kathy starts each week with 108 phones to fix. You can also think about it, this is a linear equation. So what is that 108? That's actually like your y-intercept or where you start. So there's another hint for you. Okay, when you look at question number 5, we want to find out which of the following is equivalent to the expression above. So keep in mind you do have that minus sign, so that's going to change and switch all the signs in that parenthesis that comes after it. So what's going to happen is that you're going to have a plus x squared y, a minus 3xy squared, and then a plus 3y squared. So now let's combine some like terms here. You got x squared y and then another x squared y, which means what we're going to have is 2x squared y. Next you have negative 3y squared and a positive 3y squared. Hey, that actually, yeah, that cancels out. So we're not going to have that. And you got 5xy squared and then a minus 3xy squared. So what you're going to have is you're going to have a positive 2xy squared. So looking at your answer choices, you have answer letter C. Okay, question number 6. Here you have a pediatrician that uses a model to estimate the height of a boy, and in terms of the boy's age, in years between ages 2 and 5. So what we want to find out is the estimated increase of the boy's height each year. All right, so as you look at this question, you want to think about two things. Every year, we want to find out what's that increase. So we want to find out what's that change. Now, looking at your equation that you are given, keep in mind this is a linear function, right? Your a, or your variable, in this case, has an exponent of a 1. So when you think about this, think about it as y equals mx plus b. So what's that change? Well, the change, anytime I look at change, I'm always looking at my m, or my slope. So my slope in this question is actually 3. It's 3a and then that plus 28.6. So my change, that increase every year, is going to be 3, which is answer choice letter A. All right, so we have a formula. It looks really complex, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, what do I do? Think about what you actually need to find out. Your question's asking you, which of the following gives P in terms of M, R, and N. So you are solving for P. So I want my answer to be P equals blah, 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 blah. So let's look at this together. So if you look at your formula very closely, what you're going to notice is that you have this big fraction here with all those letters. It's really that part of your formula, right? Then times that little p that's right there at the end. So what you really have is you have a fraction, okay, times a variable. So what you would think to do is you would say, okay, well, if I had m and let's just say it's 2/3 p. If I want to solve for p, what would I do? I would have to divide both sides by 2/3, or that fraction. Well, remember, dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. So the reciprocal of my big formula there is just this fraction flip-flopped over. Okay, so what you have is p has to equal that fraction, then it's going to be multiplied by that m. Well, the denominator has to be in your numerator, so we know that we can't have C or D, and it's got to be either A or B. So look closely, see what answer choice has your original denominator right in the numerator. So that is actually answer choice letter B, and your answer to question number 7 is answer choice letter B. Okay, question 8. Here we go. You have a fraction is equal to 2. We want to find out what 4b over a is equal to. Okay, well, if you look closely, what you're going to see is you're going to see, well, I have on the equation on my left, I actually have a in the numerator as opposed to the value that you actually need to find. Your a happens to be in the denominator. Well, you know how to take reciprocals. Hopefully you're kind of comfortable with fractions. So at this point, what you're going to do is, well, if I just flip my fraction, I can really put that a on the bottom and the b on the top. So if I have b now over a, I'm still not going to have 2. I'm actually going to have 1 over 2. So let's try to get the left side looking like that 4b over a. Well, if I do that, what I'm actually going to do is multiply both sides by 4. Well, then I would get 4b over a is equal to 4 over 2. Well, my left matches to what I want to actually find. So then when I look and simplify the right-hand side, I'm actually going to get 2. 4 over 2 gives me 2, and that is answer choice letter C. Question number 9. We want to find out what is the solution to the system of equations above. Okay, so remember, when you solve systems of equations, well, you're not going to be graphing because you can't use a calculator on this part, but you can use either substitution or elimination. Okay, so when I look at this question, one of the things that I can do is I can use substitution. So what I could do is I could make that second equation be an x equal. So I have to move my x to one side to the right and then move that 19 over to the other side. So I'm going to get x is equal to 2y plus 19. When we do substitution, you get 3, and then my x is now 2y plus 19, plus 4y is equal to negative 23. I'm going to distribute. I got 57 plus 4y. Okay, and then combine my like terms, 10y. And then keep going, keep solving for y. I'm going to subtract 57. And I'm going to get 10y is equal to negative 80. Divide both sides by 10, and y is going to equal negative 8. Well, if my y is going to be negative 8, the only one that has an answer of my y as negative 8 is actually answer choice B. The other way that you could use is elimination. So with elimination, remember that you're trying to eliminate or get rid of one of the variables. And remember, the coefficients need to have opposite reciprocal signs on them. Let's say I want to change the second equation again. Okay, I'm going to keep my 3x plus 4y equals negative 23. If I want to change my second equation, let's line up my variables first. I just switched in the position of the x and the 2y, and then I could go ahead and multiply that second equation by 3. When I multiply by 3, what's going to happen is that I could eliminate my x as well. Now you could eliminate the y, that's up to you. Either way, you're going to solve for one of the variables, and that way you could see which one will match your answer choice. Okay, so what I'm going to have is now negative 3y plus 6y is equal to negative 57. And then let me just rewrite that same first equation right here. So I'm all lined up. So what happens is that I can now add my two equations together, and that eliminates my negative 3. And I add 10y is equal to negative 80. Again, we're kind of in the same place we were with substitution. Dividing by 10, you're going to get negative 8. So again, that B answer choice does match up to that answer. Okay, so with this question, as you look at this function, you know that a is a constant, and we are told that g of 4 is equal to 8. And we want to find the value of g of negative 4. So the very first thing that you can do is, and the first thing that you can think about is that you actually have an even function. So when you have an even function, right, your exponent is that too. So what you have is your function that is symmetrical, right? Think about a parabola, right? You're symmetrical around your vertex. So that means that if g of 4 is equal to 8, that means, again, if I'm symmetrical, then I've got that also equaling g of negative 4. So I'm also going to equal 8 as well. If you forgot, you couldn't remember that, your even functions were symmetrical, you just didn't think about parabolas, there is another way to do this question. And the other way to do this question is to think about that your 4 is your x and your 8 is your y. So what you're going to do is say, all right, well, if I have that information, I can go ahead and plug it into the equation that is given to me. So my y is going to be with g of x. So that's my y. So I got 8 is equal to a. And then my x I know is 4. And then I got plus 24. But I can find that answer for that constant. So I have 8 is equal to 16 and then 24. Subtract both sides by that 24. Get negative 16 is equal to 16a. A is equal to negative 1. Here you go. You got g of x is equal to, now you know what a is equal to, x squared plus 24. Okay, well, going back to your question, if you need to find g of negative 4, what would you do? You'd plug it in, do your order operations. You're going to get negative 16 plus 24, right? You got negative 4 squared is a positive 16, but that negative 1 gets you that negative 16. That is going to equal 8. So again, that matches to that answer choice of A. Okay, here we go. Question number 11. You have your equations. You are told that B and C represent the price per pound in dollars of beef and chicken, respectively. X weeks after July 1st during last summer. So we want to know what was the price per pound of beef when it was equal to the price per pound of chicken. So we want to know, when was it equal? So let's set both of our equations equal to each other. And when we do that, we can go ahead and solve for x. Right, if I subtract 1.75, I get 0.60. And if you're not comfortable still with decimals, you can think about this being actually money if that's easier for you. So you've got 40 cents minus 25 cents, if that'll help you. You got 15 cents or 0.15. Divide both sides by 0.15. Again, you have 2 decimal places after the decimal point. So if you really want to just think about this as 60 divided by 15, that is fine too. So x is going to equal 4. So the x represents your number of weeks. Now we want to find the price, not the number of weeks. So you're going to take that 4 and you're going to substitute it in for the x in your B equation. So you want to find the price of beef and then times 25. So now think about this, 25 cents times 4, right? That's $1. You got 2.35 plus $1, that's 3.35, which is answer choice letter D. Okay, question number 12. We are given a line that passes through the origin and has a slope of 1/7, and we want to know which of the following points lies on that line. Okay, so you can think about this in one of 2 ways. So let's look at one approach. So your origin, we know that's right at 0, 0. Okay, which means that y-intercept, or that b, is 0, and it has a slope of 1/7. So that equation of the line, you can think about it as 1/7 x. You can put the plus 0, but you don't really need it there. Okay. Well, you can eliminate letter A because we already know it passes through the origin, so we can't have 0 and have 7 with the y-coordinate. So you can eliminate answer choice letter A. So you can think about this. All right, well, if you take any of your x's in your last 3 answer choices and you substitute it in for the x, does the answer that you get for your y match up to the y coordinate that is given to you in those answer choices B, C, and D? So the only one that actually works is letter D. So I take that 14, plug it in for x, 1/7 times 14 is actually going to equal 2. So that is one way you can approach this question. If you were absolutely stuck and you had no idea what to do, you could kind of make a little sketch. So I know I passed through the origin, and I have a slope of 1/7. So I got to go up 1, and I'm going to just approximate, and then over 7. So you could have eliminated A. This point is actually 7, 1, not 1, 7, so I can eliminate B. Okay. And I can actually also eliminate letter C because 7 for the x-coordinate is going to have a y-coordinate of 1 and not 7. And again, if you wanted just to make sure again, here you can go up 1 to 2 and over 7 to 14. That matches for a coordinate of 14 comma 2. We would like to find the equivalent to that fraction that you were given, a little complex fraction. All right, so when you look at complex fractions, let's think about what your LCD is, or your least common denominator. X plus 2 and x plus 3. Well, if you got an LCD, what you're going to do is you're going to multiply. Now you can go ahead and multiply. So let's take the numerator, and when I multiply, I'm going to get x plus 2, x plus 3 on the numerator. In my denominator, what's going to happen is I'm going to have x plus 2 cancel, and I'm going to be left with an x plus 3. And then in my second fraction, what's going to happen is I'm going to have the x plus 3 cancel and be left with the x plus 2. So as you simplify, what you're going to get is when you double distribute or FOIL the numerator, you're going to get x squared plus 5x plus 6. And in the denominator, because you have a plus sign, you're going to combine like terms. X plus x is 2x. And 3 plus 2 is 5, which gets you letter B. Okay, 3x minus y is equal to 12. What is the value of 8 to the x over 2 to the y? So your exponents here, you have your variables and your exponent. That's kind of your hint. So think about your properties of exponents, and you can actually rewrite. 8 can be rewritten as 2 to the power of 3. So I can rewrite my 8 with 2 to the power of 3, keep that x, and then rewrite what was in the denominator. When I have a power raised to a power, I multiply my exponents together. So what I end up having is 2 to the 3x. And remember that when you are dividing like bases, you subtract your exponents. So what I really have is 2 to the 3x minus y. Hey, that matches to what you are given, 3x minus y, 3x minus y. So you can actually replace that 3x minus y to the 12th. Notice they're not asking you to find out what that actually equals. You could just say it's 2 to the 12th power. Okay, so now on to question number 15. So we do have to multiply two binomials, and then that's actually going to equal a quadratic. And then we are also told for those two variables of a and b, if I add those together, it's going to equal 8. And we are trying to find what are the two possible values for c. So let's go ahead and multiply those two binomials together. So you could either FOIL, use double distribute, box method, area model, whatever one is more comfortable for you. So I will get abx squared plus 7ax plus 2bx plus 14. So I am going to go ahead and write that quadratic right underneath the red that I just multiplied, so I can go ahead and see what matches to what. So what you can see is that the 7ax and the 2bx has to equal the c. So that's what I want to find, but I need to know what a and b is. So if I multiply a and b, it has to equal 15. But then I also know if I add a and b together, it has to equal 8. So let's look at my factors that will multiply to 15, but then add to 8. So I have 5 and 3. Now, it doesn't matter which number you put for A and which you put for B because there are two possible values for C, so I can get either answer. So let's just say I'm going to try A as 5 and B as 3. Now, let's go ahead and put those values in for the 7ax and then the 2bx, so we can see if it actually equals that c. So now as c, it has to equal 7a and 2b together to get my cx. So 7 times 5, and then plus 2 times 3. What I'm going to get is 35 plus 6, which is going to equal 41. So here's my answer of 41, so I'm looking at answer choice letter D. Now, if you had done A as 3 and B as 5 instead, it still would have gotten you the correct answer. So hopefully you guys are doing good. We finished the multiple choice. Now we're going into the grid-in questions. So here we go, question number 16. If t is greater than 0, so t has to be positive, and then we have an equation, we want to know what is the value of t. So let's go ahead and solve. Let's add 4 to both sides. So then t squared is equal to 4. I then have to go ahead and take the square root. And when I solve this question, I know that t is plus or minus 2, but I know that t has to be positive. So I can't have, in actuality, I can't have that negative. So I can only have when t is a positive 2. So when you actually grid in your answers, it doesn't matter where you put that 2 as long as you bubble in. Now, I always say a good rule of thumb is to start from the left, because if you have decimals, you want to give exact number of decimals that you can. So here we go, 2, and then bubble in. Make sure you bubble in, because if you only write the number in the boxes at the top and you forget to bubble in, they won't count the answer. They're only going to look at the bubbles. Okay, question 17. We do have a camp counselor who wants to find the length of x across the lake that is represented in this sketch. So here we are given the different sketches that are represented by different line segments. So let's go ahead and label those first. We have AB, and that's determined to be 1800. So here we go, AB is 1800. You have EB, that is 1400. Then you have BD, that is 700. And you have CD, which is 800. And you want to go ahead and find X. Okay, so we are also told that our segments intersect at B here. We are told that two of our angles have the same measurement here. So when we see that our two segments intersect at B, these angles, make them as purple, these angles are actually going to be vertical angles. Now, what you should see is that you actually have congruent triangles. And the side that we're going to look that corresponds with the side X we are trying to find is actually going to be our 800. So I'm going to show you what sides correspond to which sides. So your side CD corresponds to X, and then your side BD corresponds to EB. So one triangle corresponds to another triangle, so they're proportional. So if I fill in the information from the numbers that I was told in the question, I have a proportion question. So now this proportion, you can go out and cross multiply. Remember, this is a non-calculator part though. So if you notice on the right-hand side, 700 over 1400, well, that's just 1/2. So I really have 800 over x is equal to 1/2. Now, remember, the right has to equal the left. So if the right has 1/2, then we have to think about 800 is half of what number, and that's going to get me 1600. 1600. Again, starting from the left ensures that you fill in all of the digits that you need for your answer. Here we go, question 18. So you have a system of equations. We want to find out what the value of x is. So in this question, if you want to find x, to save you time, you should do elimination and you should eliminate the y. So let's eliminate the y. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and multiply the first equation by a negative 2. You have negative 2x minus 2y is equal to a positive 18. Let's go ahead and just write the second equation underneath. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add my two equations together to eliminate the y. So I have negative 1x is equal to negative 7. Going ahead and solving for x, I can divide by negative 1, and x is going to equal 7. If I start from the left, fill in my bubble for 7 at the bottom. Okay, in question 19, we are told that the sine of an angle x is equal to 4 over 5. We want to find the cosine of 90 minus x. So what you actually have here is a complementary angle relationship, and what that is telling you is that the sine of some angle has to equal the cosine of its complement. So remember, complementary angles add up to 90, so its complement is 90 minus the angle. So your answer in this case is still just 4 over 5. So 4 over 5, that's my answer. So 4 over 5 is 4, and the fraction sign, and then 5. Now another way to approach this question, in case you forgot the complementary angle relationship, is just to go ahead and do some trig. So here you go, you have sine of x is equal to 4 over 5, so let's make a right triangle. So here's angle x. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, right? That's the SO part of SOHCAHTOA. So let's just label the angle at the top y for now, so I know what I'm talking about. And if I have a triangle, I add up all my angles, and it has to equal 180. Well, I don't know which I'm trying to find, but I do need to make 90 minus x out of the equation that I have right here. So let's do that. Which means I'm going to subtract 90 first. So I have x plus y equals 90. Well, 90 minus x means I got to go ahead and subtract that x. So 90 minus x is really me finding the y. So I want to find, in actuality for this question, I want to find the cosine of y. So the cosine of y, remember cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent is my 4, my hypotenuse is my 5. Same answer as what we got before. Okay, here's the last question, guys. You're doing so good. So last question, here we go. If I have a is 5 square roots of 2, and I know what 2a is equal to, I want to find x. So I know a, let's go ahead and substitute that in. So 2 times 5 square roots of 2 is equal to the square root of 2x. Okay, I can go ahead and multiply. So I multiply just my outside numbers. Keep that radical there. Bring down the rest of your question. Now, in order to get rid of that square root, you have to take the power of 2 to both sides to cancel out. So 10 squared is 100. The square root of 2 squared is just 2 equals the right side, my radical, my power are going to cancel, and I got 2x. So I have 200 is equal to 2x. Divide both sides by 2. My x is going to equal 100. So start from the left, 100, and bubble in at the bottom. I hope this video helped you with this practice test and it answered any questions you had. If you still have questions, you can leave a comment below and I'll go ahead and reach out to you. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe for notifications on future SAT math prep videos. Thanks for watching!